The park bench felt cold even through Michael Richardson's wool coat. December wind scattered leaves across the frozen ground, and strings of golden lights hung from the bare trees, reflecting off patches of ice. Around him, the city park bustled, with holiday shoppers carrying bright bags, families laughing together, couples walking hand in hand. Michael sat alone, watching it all from a distance. At 39, he'd achieved everything he'd set out to accomplish. His tech security firm employed over 3,000 people across 12 countries. Forbes had featured him twice. He owned penthouses in 3 cities and drove cars most people only saw in magazines. But on Christmas Eve, he sat on a park bench by himself, with nowhere to go and no one waiting. His parents had passed years ago. He'd never married, had thrown himself so completely into building his empire that relationships always came second, then third, then not at all. The few friends he'd once had drifted away, tired of canceled plans and unreturned calls. Last week, his executive assistant had invited him to her family's Christmas dinner. The pity in her eyes had been unbearable. He'd declined politely, claimed he had other plans. Now those imaginary plans had left him here, alone in a park on Christmas Eve, wearing an expensive charcoal coat and turtleneck, but feeling emptier than he'd ever felt. The sound of a child's laughter drew his attention. A little girl, perhaps, 5 years old, ran ahead of a young couple, her burgundy coat bright against the winter gray. She wore a gray knitted hat with a pom-pom, and blonde curls escaped around her rosy cheeks. She carried a small paper bag, presumably from one of the nearby bakeries. The girl slowed as she passed Michael's bench, her bright eyes curious. She stopped completely, studying him with the unself-conscious directness only children possess. "Emma, come on!" her mother called, a pretty woman in her early 30s carrying shopping bags. But the little girl didn't move. She looked at Michael, then at the empty space beside him on the bench, then back at his face. "Are you waiting for someone?" she asked. Michael was caught off guard. "No, just sitting." "On Christmas Eve? By yourself?" The girl's face scrunched with concern. "That's sad." "Emma," her father said, reaching them now. He was perhaps Michael's age, dressed casually, carrying more shopping bags. "You can't just talk to strangers." "But, Dad, he's all alone," Emma said, as if this explained everything. The father met Michael's eyes, apologetic. "Sorry about that. She's very friendly." "It's fine," Michael said, though his chest felt tight. Out of the mouths of children, he was sad, sitting alone on Christmas Eve. Emma wasn't finished. She held up her paper bag. "We got cookies from the bakery, sugar cookies with frosting. They're really good." "That sounds nice," Michael said, trying to smile. The girl looked at him for another long moment, then made a decision with the certainty only children have. She turned to her parents. "Mom, Dad, he should come have dinner with us." "Emma," her mother started. "Do you want to have dinner with us?" Emma asked Michael directly, her voice clear and sure. "It's Christmas Eve. Nobody should be alone on Christmas Eve." Michael felt something crack in his chest. This child who didn't know him, who had no reason to care, was offering him what no one else had. Simple inclusion, uncomplicated kindness. "That's very sweet," Michael said, his voice rougher than he intended, "but I couldn't impose." "You're not imposing if we're inviting you," Emma said with perfect logic. "Right, Mom?" Her mother looked at Michael, really looked at him, and he saw something shift in her expression. Perhaps she recognized the loneliness he was trying so hard to hide. Perhaps she just saw someone who needed kindness. "She's right," the woman said gently. "If you don't have plans, you're welcome to join us. We're just going home to make dinner. Nothing fancy, just roast chicken and vegetables. But there's plenty." "I'm Lisa," she continued. "This is my husband Tom and our daughter Emma." "Michael," he managed. You don't know me." "We know you're alone on Christmas Eve," Tom said simply. "And Emma's right. Nobody should be alone today. If you'd like to join us, the invitation's genuine." Michael looked at these strangers offering him what money couldn't buy, belonging, even if just for one evening. Every rational part of him said to decline, to not intrude on a family's holiday. But a deeper part, the part that had been screaming with loneliness for longer than he wanted to admit, reached for this lifeline. "If you're sure," he said quietly, "I'd like that very much." Emma's face lit up. "Good. Do you like cookies? You can have one on the way home." Their apartment was modest but warm, filled with the comfortable clutter of an active family. A small Christmas tree stood in the corner, decorated with handmade ornaments and strings of popcorn. The furniture was worn but clean, the kitchen small but filled with good smells. Michael felt profoundly out of place in his expensive clothes, but Lisa and Tom treated him with easy hospitality, asking him to help with simple tasks, setting the table, opening wine, stirring the pot on the stove. Emma appointed herself his guide, showing him her toy collection, her favorite books, the picture she'd drawn in school. She chattered continuously, asking questions with innocent curiosity. What was his job? Did he have a dog? What was his favorite color? Michael answered honestly, finding himself relaxing despite the strangeness of the situation. When Emma asked if he had a family, he said simply, "Not anymore. It's just me now." Emma considered this seriously. "That must be lonely." "Sometimes," Michael admitted. "Yes." "Well, tonight you can be part of our family," Emma declared. "Just for pretend, but the good kind of pretend." During dinner, Michael learned that Tom was a teacher, Lisa worked as a nurse, and they'd been together since college. They spoke with easy affection, teasing each other gently, including Emma in their conversations with respect. It was clear they didn't have much money, the apartment was small, the furniture old, but they had something Michael's penthouses lacked entirely: warmth, connection, love. "Can I ask you something?" Lisa said as they cleared plates. "Emma said you were sitting alone in the park. Do you really have no one to spend Christmas with?" Michael hesitated, then decided on honesty. "No. I built a successful business, but I didn't build much else. It's Christmas Eve and I had nowhere to go. Your daughter saw that somehow." "Kids have a way of seeing what matters," Tom said. "They haven't learned to look past people yet." After dinner, they sat around the small tree. Emma insisted Michael help her put the star on top, climbing onto his shoulders to reach. The trust in that gesture. This child, climbing onto a stranger's shoulders without fear, nearly undid him. They sang carols, Emma's voice high and enthusiastic even when she forgot the words. They drank hot chocolate. Lisa brought out a worn photo album, showing Michael pictures of previous Christmases, of Emma as a baby, of their simple but joy-filled life. As the evening drew late, Emma fought sleep on the couch, finally curling up against Michael's side. He sat very still, afraid to move, this small, warm presence reminding him of everything he'd missed by pursuing success above all else. "Thank you," Michael said quietly to Lisa and Tom. "You have no idea what this evening has meant." "I think we do," Lisa said gently. "Everyone needs to belong somewhere, especially at Christmas." When it was time to leave, Emma woke enough to hug him goodbye. "Will we see you again?" she asked sleepily. "I'd like that," Michael found himself saying. "If it's okay with your parents." "More than okay," Tom said, shaking his hand. "You're welcome anytime." Michael walked back to his penthouse through the quiet streets, but he wasn't the same man who'd sat on that bench hours before. He'd been given a gift more valuable than anything money could buy, a reminder of what truly mattered, offered by a little girl who simply saw someone who needed kindness. Everything. In the weeks that followed, Michael made changes. He started leaving work at reasonable hours. He reached out to old friends, made new ones. He began volunteering at a youth center, mentoring kids who reminded him of Emma, curious, kind, unafraid to see the good in people. He visited Lisa, Tom, and Emma often. They became his chosen family, and he became part of theirs. He helped with Emma's college fund, not as charity, but as family helping family. He was there for birthdays, for school plays, for quiet Sunday dinners that meant more than any business achievement. Years later, at Emma's high school graduation, she gave a speech about kindness. She told the story of the lonely man on the park bench, how one invitation had changed 2 lives, his and hers. She'd learned, she said, that the most powerful thing we can offer someone is simple inclusion, uncomplicated love. Michael sat in the audience, tears streaming down his face, holding Lisa's hand on one side and Tom's on the other, his family, not by blood, but by choice and love. After the ceremony, Emma found him. "Thank you for saying yes that day," she said. "To dinner, I mean." "Thank you for asking," Michael replied. "You saved my life, you know. I was so lost." "You just needed someone to see you," Emma said simply. "We all do sometimes." She was right. He'd spent years building walls of success and wealth, hiding behind achievement, thinking that's what life was about. It took a 5-year-old girl in a gray pom-pom hat to show him the truth. We're meant to be seen, to be known, to belong. Sometimes the greatest gifts come from the smallest hands. Sometimes salvation arrives in the form of a child's simple question, "Do you want to have dinner with us?" And sometimes having the courage to say yes changes.